Hi everybody, Jason Dutton-Smith here from All About Content Marketing. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be talking about our content ROI today. That's return on investment of our content and what are the best ways to measure our content and assign a dollar value to it. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll jump right into the presentation. So here we are, how to measure your content ROI. So just a quick introduction to myself. I'm a content marketer and strategist and a multi-award winning publisher and travel writer. I've only ever been in the travel industry, but everything we talk about at All About Content Marketing is applicable across all verticals. I've worked for several brands around the world, some of the big name travel brands out there. And custom publishing is what we do at All About Content Marketing. So if your brand or you need any custom publishing needs, feel free to reach out to me. But in today's presentation, we're going to talk about a few different dot points here. So first, we're going to talk about different types of content, about 3 metrics that the boss only cares about, and also 4 types of other measurements that we can apply to our content ROI to measure our content. We're also going to assign a dollar value and content scale. So let's jump in. At the heart of every successful marketing campaign, most savvy marketers know that content plays a central role. We're all aware. It helps us stand out from the crowd and differentiate ourselves from our competitors. Here's a traditional or a very formal explanation, if you like, of what content marketing is from the Content Marketing Institute. It's the distribution of valuable and compelling content to attract, acquire, and engage a clearly defined and understood target audience, the objective to driving a profitable customer action. Now, it's a little bit of a word salad. Let's break that down a little bit more simpler here. It's all about the story. Every brand, every product, every service, regardless of what you do in your business, you have a unique story that needs to be told. Your story is a message that connects you with your audience and helps you stand out from the crowd. And of course, there's all different types of content that we can use within the brand. I'm just going to touch on this slide very quickly, just so we understand that there are multiple forms of content available to us. You probably just think right away of website copy or blogs. And of course, that's great content marketing and can be marketing, but there's so much more content out there. Social media, testimonials, podcasts, white papers, videos, these are all different types of content marketing or types of content that we can apply. The trick here is finding which piece of content resonates with our audience and is successful for our brand and our business. Once we can figure that out, then we can continue building on the success of that. So let's look at the 3 metrics that the boss wants. So the big boss is basically looking for 3 different measurements here. Is content driving us sales? Is it reducing our costs? And will it help retain and bring us? If you think of any CEO or top manager, this is the type of thing that they're looking at, the big picture, right? But there's just so much more to that, depending on what level you are in the organization. So at the top of our pyramid here, we have the big boss with the sales, cost, and retention. But below them, the line managers, they're looking for what's the quality of the leads? How many leads are we getting? Can we make these leads to sale cycles shorter? How can we improve on that? Then, of course, there's the team below them. We're looking at things like web traffic, how many likes or page views, what social interactions are we getting? How is our SEO? How are we getting people to the website to garner that lead? So depending on where you sit in the organization, there's different types of measurements that everybody is looking for. So what I wanted to touch on was 4 different types of measurements outside of what the boss is looking for. So we can break this down into 4 areas. When we're looking at content, people are consuming it, they're sharing it, they become a lead, and ultimately they become a sale. So if we look at the breakdown of these 4 individual components, let's have a look at how we can measure against these different components. So when we're talking about consumption here, we're talking about how does your audience consume your content? Now that can be in multiple ways. Obviously, page views is the obvious, right? That's an easy measure. We can do that with Google Analytics and some other tools. So we can see how many people are actually being driven to our website and how many page views that they're looking at. But let's look at some other views as well. Expand that out. If you have social media, if you have videos as an example, how are people consuming that? And what are the numbers when it relates to that as well? So it's not just page views in this particular case. How many people viewed our video and how many people consumed our social media? And of course, there's downloads as well. So if we think of the different types of content, there's white papers and case studies and podcasts. How many people listen to our podcast or subscribe to our podcast? That's a different measurement as well that it can be used. And the natural one is how many white papers did people download, or case studies in this case. So as you can see from a consumption point, we've got a few different ways that we can measure our content here. And then there's the shares. And by shares, we mean, is your content good enough for your audience to share it with their peers or friends and family? And there's lots of different social metrics that we can use for this. So starting with social media, there's social sharing and metric tools. I've got two links in there for you to have a look at. One is IFTT, If This and That, and also Mention. These are two companies. They are paid services. They have a very limited free option, but these are paid services that can give you an understanding of your social sharing. People are actually listening to you or consuming your content via social media. So if you're big in the social media world, if you have a large following and you have great shares and interactions and likes, these are two companies that will be worth a look at. Sharing can also be a forward, whether that's just a simple email forward or a product share, different ways that people consume and share your content. So if you send out a database, have a link on there, forward to a friend, put a tracking link on there so you can track that how many people actually forward that onto a friend. And of course, there's having social media icons on your product pages. You can obviously see how many people are sharing your products and are interested from a social point. And inbound links. This is a different type of sharing metric, and this is more in the SEO side. But how many people, how many external companies or pages or websites are linking back to you? So Moz Link Explorer and Majestic SEO, again, two companies with a free service, but primarily the paid service. These are great companies that will be able to analyze how many inbound links you actually have coming in. And just to explain a little further on an inbound link, if you have a piece of content, this is someone who on a separate website and a separate brand has linked from their content to your content. That's what we're looking for there. By doing that, it means that your content is interesting enough for them to share with their audience as well. So organically, you're driving more traffic to your website. All good. And then there's leads. So by leads, we're looking at how does your content align with a business goal? So obviously a lead is a business goal. We all want leads, right? And of course we all want sales. So how do we measure a lead? So form completions, that's an obvious one. But there's also accessing gated content. So form completion is quite straightforward. Fill out a form and go into the database. By gated content, what I mean there is that they have to give you something before you give them something. So this happens a lot in people that are sharing white papers or case studies and dossiers and stuff. So what this means, you go to a website, you have to give your details before they will share that with you. So you've probably organically come across these sites anyway. You website, it says that you've got this great PDF that you can download. All you need to do is give us your name and email and sometimes some other information, and then you have access to it. So that's gated content. It's just content sitting behind a barrier. And of course, subscribers, newsletters, blogs, updates, and so forth. How many leads do you get through your subscribers? That can also apply to sales and conversions. What visitors consumed your content became So tracking down that funnel from the top of the funnel where they're just looking for information all the way down to leads and then obviously a sale. How do you track that funnel all the way through from a conversion standpoint? So track your visitors who are consuming your content and then tracking which ones actually become a lead. And of course, sales, the number one driver of everything. And obviously, one of the big things the boss wants to know, right? So when we're talking about sales, we're talking about driving revenue. So how do we track our leads and allocate or update our marketing budget to the areas that our content has proven itself? And that's what we're looking for when we talk about our content ROI, return on investment. So from an online perspective, there's the e-commerce store. You have a product for sale on your store. People just simply purchase. You've already got your sale. And then, of course, there's phone sales. So how many people are phoning in, or email sales. If you have a store, how many people are walking into the store? So breaking down your sales into the different components is obviously very important. There's the offline sales as well. So which content was consumed from an offline point of view, and attribute that also. And then the lead origin. So did it come from a website? Did it come from a brochure? Maybe it came from an advert. And don't forget about the handshake deals. Often we're in the community or we're at conferences and we're meeting different people. I know I've sat on an aeroplane before and just struck up a random hello conversation with my neighbor, and he ended up turning into a lead, and we ended up doing business together. So that's another thing that we can attribute to a sale down the track as well. Put that down as a handshake deal. And then there's the traditional analytics. So a lot of these we've just mentioned from page views and unique visits and social liking and sharing and web traffic, but there's lots of different traditional analytics. The point here is you don't have to overanalyze absolutely everything. You just need to understand, you need to have enough analytics and enough understanding of content to know what's working and what's not. So if that means reducing your bounce rate, because the less bounce rate, the more leads and hence the more sales, then that's something that should be looked at. Page rankings, cost per acquisition, which we'll talk about in a moment. There's all kinds of traditional analytics, and of course there's no end to Google Analytics and what they can track for you. It doesn't mean you have to do everything. Again, just we need to find what works for us. So that brings us to assigning a dollar value. So we've got the 4 different ways that we can track our content. This is how we can turn our content and assign a dollar value to show the big boss that what we're doing from a content marketing and a content strategy point of view is actually working. And here's the hardline proof. We all know that in the content marketing world and content strategy world, it can be a difficult sell to the boss to get more budget. Well, this is a surefire way that I've used with my clients many, many times now, so we can understand what's working and what's not. It's just a little simple formula that I pulled together. Divide the cost of your content by the number of leads to assign a dollar value. So I'll just repeat that. Take the cost of your content and divide that by how many leads that piece of content generated. So taking all those slides we just looked at before and all the different ways that our audience can consume our content, to put a dollar value to that, we just divide the cost by the number of leads. Here's a really quick example. A piece of content costs you $100 to pull together. It generates you 10 leads. Your CPA, or cost per acquisition, is $10. So you can now take this to the boss and say, hey, boss, look, we spent $100 on this, but we got 10 leads. So really, our CPA is only $10 per person, but our profit margins are X. You can see how this can be very kind of in the boss's language, if you like. And there's lots of different things you can do here. You can tweak this in a couple of different ways. So obviously there's, at the top level, there's always the cost of the content. And underneath, you can do this by leads or you can do this by sales. Now, the good thing with content marketing is that for the most part, we're creating evergreen content, right? Evergreen being that our content sits on the website and doesn't expire. So that in the first week or two, this may have that $100 piece of content, it may have only cost you $10 per lead because you were able to acquire 10 leads. But what we need to do is go back every month or at least every quarter and have a look at that same piece of content. Because over time, if you have a great piece of content, over time it'll start ranking, it'll start building up traffic to that page. Organically, you should start seeing some more leads and some more sales. Just the natural flow of the funnel, right? So that after the first month, this $100 piece of content may have only cost $10 CPA, but in 3 months' time, maybe this is down to dollar, maybe it's down to cents in the dollar. So keep analyzing and keep using this conversion formula to work out what's working and work out what's not, and then apply that. So take your total attributed sales and chalk it up to content. This is a great way to take it up higher up the ranks and up to the big boss and show them how our content, all the hard work we do with our strategy and our content marketing, how it is actually working, and the driver of the revenue to the bottom line. And we use this rate to find the best performing content. So depending on what the content is, obviously the more leads and the more sales, the less that piece of content is going to cost us. So the better performing that content is. A formula across all different or various pieces of content that you have, and just see what resonates from with your audience. But remember, this is just applying to the lead and the sale aspect. From a content marketing point of view, if we pull this right back, when we talk about content marketing, we're talking about giving useful and relevant information. We're giving their customers the why they should transact with us. So it's important to differentiate here, just for a quick moment, that this formula does not apply to content marketing in the awareness point. The awareness stage, I should say. This only applies in the lead and the sales stage of our content, if that's what our content is designed for. Of course, different types of content are for different types of stages of the funnel. So this formula is not going to work across all content. We have to pick and choose where that goes. And that leads me to our last part here, which is content scale. So by assigning a dollar value, what we can do is scale our content now to a low, a medium, and a high. Let's look at some examples. So high performers, these are pages that produce us great results, constantly giving results to the company or driving revenue or driving awareness, which leads them down, it pushes them down the funnel into becoming a lead and a sale. Now, usually these are the pages that we can just leave alone, but keep an eye out on them just in case of updates, or if you start seeing them slip, or, Google loves to update their algorithms periodically. So sometimes we just need to change things around just a little bit. So most times you can leave it alone, but don't forget about it. Now, your medium performers, these are posts that normally need some sort of attention, but they have the ability to become a high performer. And of course, naturally, we want every single one of our pages to be a high performer especially when it comes to leads and sales. But medium performers may be okay to be a medium performer. An example I've got here is that it could be a low volume search word that performs really well. So the content is actually fine. You don't need to do anything with it. This could be at the awareness, top of the funnel awareness stage. As long as the content remains relevant and useful, then keep it around. But if it needs to be tweaked, to try and make it into a high performer, then, of course, that's exactly what we'll do. And then last is our low performers. So sometimes our content can just be a flop. It's as simple as that. It's all right, but there's always a reason behind it. If we put up a piece of content and it doesn't work, we have to analyze and find out what is the problem with that piece of content. Now, there could be many things behind this, and it's a low performer doesn't mean we should automatically get rid of it. Let's analyze it, tweak it, see if we can push it into the medium and ultimately into the high performer category. So is it a technical SEO error? Is the page just not set up correctly so Google simply can't read the page, as an example? Is there something wrong with the URL structure? Is it an orphan page? It's not actually, married up in the URL structure. There's lots of different reasons why it can be a low performer. And another reason is it's just simply a low volume topic. So a low volume topic may bring in the lion's share of that low volume topic or that low volume keyword. So maybe it doesn't need to be killed off. Keep it around. If you're getting the lion's share, you're getting most of the page views for that low volume keyword or topic, then maybe that's okay and it should just stay there and not be touched at all. So don't kill it off too early. Determine the why, make improvements, monitor and keep tweaking accordingly. It could be a high performer in the waiting. So that's our content scale. So now we've understood the different ways that our audience are consuming. We can assign a dollar value to our leads and our sale content or content related to leads and sales. And now we can rank our content. We can scale our content from low, medium, and high to now push that forward and start measuring and pushing the performance up. So here's a couple of key takeaways for today's session. Find your internal success point and keep on measuring, and don't forget to keep an eye out on it. Content marketing is not a set and forget ideal. It has to go up, and we have to keep monitoring and tweaking if needed. Define your goal for good, excellent, and bad. And once you have that, this is talking about the scaling of the content, continue to tweak and measure again. Now, new sales are great, but don't forget about retention. Now, the line managers, the middle of that pyramid we looked at before, quite often all they're interested in is just more and more new people coming through the door, new sales. But part of our job is to retain the customers that we have. It's hugely important. They're the ones that are already a brand advocate. Our job is to change them from a brand advocate into a brand warrior. So don't forget about retention when you're chasing the new sale all the time. And good content anticipates needs. If you look at the conversion funnel from awareness and pushing all the way down to the sale, make sure you have good content that anticipates the audience's needs in each stage of the funnel as you go. And great content separates you from the noise and differentiates you from your competitor. We don't want to be equal to our competitors. We want to be above and beyond them. And this is my favorite saying, a little saying that I coined: you didn't fail. I think as strategists and marketers, sometimes a little harsh on ourselves. If something doesn't work, we like to beat up on ourselves. Look at it this way: you didn't fail, you tested. And when we test, it doesn't work. We know it. We know now what does not work. So we move on to the next subject. So don't be too hard on yourself, and just remember you tested. And that's it. Here's my connecting details. I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. There's my Twitter handle, and you can read more about this video online here at bit.ly meetup content ROI. I have the full transcript up there for you. And please join us on our monthly meetup groups as well. It's the Nashville Content Marketing Meetup Group. And we also have, in Australia, we have the Brisbane Content Marketing Group. Please join us in the meetup, and I look forward to seeing you in the coming time. Any questions in between, feel free to reach out to me, Jason at allaboutcontentmarketing.com. I'd love to chat. Thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate it.